Hi, in this video we'll look at how to make a drop shadow or shadow for a subject. And we first need to select the subject, and we can either use the background it's on, but in this case we're going to also show you how to make a new background. So first of all, we're just going to go to select subject, and Photoshop will then have a look at the image, analyze it, and pick out the most predominant subject in the picture. In this case we hope it's the dancer, and it's going to create marching ants for us, which we can then use throughout the building of our shadow and also to create a sort of background. So you can see it's chosen the dancer very well. So what we're going to do now is we're wanting to make the dancer visible, and also going to use that to create the drop shadow. So we're just going to put a mask on the top layer, and that's going to, if we turn the bottom layer off, it's going to show that we have only got the dancer. So on the bottom layer we need to put a solid color around the dancer as a background. So I'm going to click on the bottom layer and ask for a new layer, which therefore always fall above it. I'm going to go to the bucket, and I'm just going to go to the foreground or background color, in this case a foreground color, and I'm going to click on a tone or white, whatever your case may be. In this case I'm going to click on a skin tone, just lighten up a bit, and from that I'm just going to click in the screen, and it's going to fill the blank layer that we've just made called layer 1. And now we have the tone, but now you can see it looks very weird because it hasn't got a drop shadow. So the shadow is coming from a little bit behind, and I'm just going to show you the angle here. It's coming from a little behind, it's going from left to right. So in order to get the drop shadow right, we need to make another new layer in which the shadow would live, always underneath the subject. We're going to use the mask here to create the shadow. So we're going to control click it to get marching ants, and then we're going to, on layer 2, which is now blank, we're going to use, you can see the marching ants in there. Just I'm going to turn this on so you can see the marching ants. We're going to go to the bucket, and we're going to make it black, and we're going to click in the marching ants, and we're going to get a black silhouette of the dancer. This here we're going to use to create the shadow. So in this case we want the shadow to become forward and down to this area here. So what we're going to do is, with it selected, we're going to go Control T, free transform, and if we hold down the shift key, you're going to see, instead of being, it's going to become a solid white arrow. Then we can move this independently. So this we want to bring in front and move it below, and you can make out the frame a bit that way. And now you can see we've got the shadow of the dancer, but it's not quite at the feet. So we're going to go Control T again and just manipulate that one up to the foot. And we're just going to move stylus until it sits on the foot. And because it's underneath, it's going to be underneath the foot. And that's the first one to get the shadow in the right place, and also the shadow, the right design of the dancer, because we're actually using the dancer. I'm just going to zoom up here, make sure it's under both feet. And then the next is to create the idea of how hard the light was. The harder the light, the more consistent the edge would be. In this case we're going to just blur it a bit to create a bit of a sun that is not quite so hard. And we're going to go Gaussian blur, and here you just need to use your eye depending on how much blur you wanted. We're probably going to look at about either that or 14%. That's what much there. So 14 there. So it's getting a little bit softer on the edge, and we're going to click OK. And the last thing to make it completely realistic is we're just going to put a drop shadow underneath where the feet would meet the ground. So it's important. So again, we're going to go to a new layer here, and now we can go and use a rectangular marquee, and just going to highlight the areas. Again, you need to make sure it's coming from more from the left to the right, and we're going to go to the Add To button underneath the properties, and we're going to do it on the second one too. And you can see I've got it just dangling out a little bit more to the right. Now we're going to go to a brush. These are a black foreground color, and one new layer. It's going to paint these, and you can see it's going to be quite a solid line. And I'm going to deselect it. Now these just have to go and feather a bit, so back to filter, Gaussian blur. And then from the Gaussian blur we can just, that comes out perfect. So this one here you might just want to set the opacity of the shadow layer. So I'll just take it down to 0. I'm just going to take it up to where it looks authentic, a little bit darker. There. Okay, Control 0. Fit to screen. think I'm just going to go to zoom because this control is not working. I'm just going to go to fit screen, and there we can see we've got the dancer extractor on the background with the top shadow on. Okay, so quick rundown is you're going to create a mask of the subject, and you're going to use that mask on a new layer to make a black silhouette of the subject, and you're going to freeze transform that silhouette into the right place depending on which the sun dictates it to you, as it should look in reality. Hope you enjoyed the short tutorial. Until next time.